Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the OWC MilSub, and there's a long story to this watch. Now, in a nutshell, this is what you call a indie dive watch. This is an individual person that wanted to start a brand and have their dream watch, so they put it together. And there's different options, like there's a couple dials you can choose from, there's different hands, there's 2 different movements, but overall, this guy, who happens to be Australian, he's a very interesting fellow, created this as a project watch. And, you know, I mean, literally, he went back and forth with various suppliers and companies for years trying to put this together. And this is, I guess you could say, the most recent version. I don't think this is a project which ends. Now, the question is, why would you do this? Why would you buy a watch from a small independent brand that's basically a hobby watch, as opposed to getting something from a big brand who does this all day long? And that's a really good question. I don't know that there's a lot of people that go and buy these types of hobby watches as sort of their first timepiece. I think that this is something which watch lovers grow into, because they can feel sort of a shared passion with someone, and they respect that someone went out there and put in the sort of extreme level of time into creating a product that, you know, it's not difficult when it comes to like regulations and things like that, but getting a watch made that's unique is very difficult to do and takes a lot of time, and there's a huge amount of frustration. And what's interesting about this company is they send out this newsletter that sort of discusses the ups and downs, and he's pretty honest with it. You know, he talks about family problems and issues with suppliers, and it's been this saga, at least for me, for years to sort of follow everything they've done. So this is one of the higher end versions of the OWC, which stands for Orange Watch Company MilSub. It has a Swiss movement. And it has a dial I like. It's very kind of like Rolex Tudor inspired, of course, because it is a Military Submariner. That's what MilSub means. This case is just over 40 millimeters wide. It's 40.5 millimeters wide, and I like it a lot. Very nice polishing, chunky, you know, look. 300 meters of water resistance. You know, this is a dive watch. The bezel's interesting. It's actually ceramic with lume painted on the ceramic, which is interesting, and it clicks very nicely, very solidly, and you know, he really just put as much time and effort. The dial, of course, it's a matter of taste whether or not you like this sort of historic look. It's meant to look kind of flat like that, but it doesn't look boring. I mean, there's flat watches and there's flat watches that look good. This particular dial does not have the date. That's what I wanted. I wanted a dateless dial, but you can get it with a date. And the movement in this is a Sawprod A10, so that's the nicer movement. But I think if you want to spend like several $100s, actually cheaper, you can get the Chinese mechanical movement, I believe. And for me, you know, if you know, it's like literally the difference is $300 between the Chinese movement and this one. It's like the majority of the watch is the movement. So, you know, if you're more budget conscious, you can do that. But for me, I just felt the A10 was a much better solution. You know, like I said, the detailing is really great. You know, he just put a lot of effort. You have, for example, these little torque screws in here. The case polishing is nicely done. The back is actually screwed on with these screws, with these torque screws there as well. Everything just looks great, and the hands are nicely done. For someone who is just sort of using their own ability to make calls and send out emails to suppliers, this is impressive, because I've seen a lot of project watches like this that really aren't as good. One thing I would like in the future, and I've told them this, is even though there's a couple of bracelet options, I would like for there to be a tapered bracelet. Now, a tapered bracelet, as opposed to one which is completely uniform like this, much harder to do, because this one basically has 2 parts. You have the center link and this link, I guess this link as well, if they're different, and that's it. But with a tapered one, as you go down the bracelet, it's just a ton of different size parts, so it's a lot more complicated to do. But this watch is also, I think there's a mesh metal bracelet, and I think it will look good on a strap as well. Why do I want a tapered bracelet? Because I think that on a 40 millimeter wide watch, a tapered bracelet makes the watch look larger and more substantial on the wrist. Because you have here such a wide bracelet, which is a relatively wide bracelet given the design, it makes the watch itself feel a little bit smaller. It's a nice weighty feel. He did a good job with the fit and finish, like I said. And And I think if it's a style that you're interested in, it's definitely something worth looking at. So this version of the MilSub, with this particular dial and this movement, actually the dials I think are all the same price, is $850. Not that much, honestly, for what you get, and it's like $550 with the other movement. Interesting piece. Again, not necessarily something for everyone. I think to be into an indie watch, you have to be into, wanting to be a little bit more curious about brands, being more into like independent clothing and fashion and tech and gear and stuff like that, as opposed to buying stuff from the big retailers or the big companies. But I love this stuff. Brands like this keep things interesting, and this is a watch which deserves accolades and awareness, because I think that he did a particularly good job. Again, this is the OWC MilSub, and you can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch soon. Thanks.